Episode 6, Beers and Banter. This is not a drill. Welcome back, Dilsey. Jeez, I was lonely last week. It was. I apologise to all the listeners at home. I was a bit flat. Had a bit of man flu, and
on your Pat Malone last week.
Yeah, I was. It was really struggling to get the energy while I was sitting here in the studio on my own. But good to have you back, and
good to be back in the sweatbox.
It is good to be back. Definitely. I forgot about the humidity in this garage.
Beautiful, isn't it?
It's an amazing thing.
I like it. Just keeps me on my toes.
Big weekend, Anzac.
Huge weekend.
Yep.
Dawn service Thursday morning.
Nah, I didn't make it.
I did.
Did
It's
you?
a bit of a tradition down there at Burleigh. Small, tiny sacrifice to make for the troops that did it for us all those years ago.
Good on you, Red.
And I don't care how many times I hear it over the weekend watching all the footy. Always, it gets my attention when the last post is played. They could do that for every game.
It's a great weekend, isn't it? When you every game has that, the last post and the ceremony. It's pretty special.
Very good, very good.
It's a lot of pressure when you're playing that.
Is it?
Well, it's just dead silence. You're there. Can you imagine that?
No, I couldn't.
It is.
Very
It is a
good.
bit
It
of
is.
pressure.
Thank you.
And I don't mind a mistake. I'd rather hear it played and hear a blowout than hear a recording every day of the week.
Definitely.
So what do we got, big guy?
Bit of sport happened on the weekend.
I'm going to try a bit of unstructured this week. I feel like we've been a bit rigid, bit robotic.
Just go with the flow.
We're just going to go with it this week. We're just going to kick back. We're going to have some of these beers that Timmy's brought.
Quite nice.
I don't mind it. What do we got, Tim?
Fixation obsession, actually. It's an arm of Stone and Wood. It's an IPA.
Are you still working on a
Indian
sponsorship
Pale
there
Ale.
for us?
I'm
or
working on it.
Stone and Wood, did you say?
Stone and Wood.
Yeah.
It's got a ring to it.
Just reached
and
like
Wood.
solid 60 odd people, Stone and Wood.
That's right.
Little shout out.
Actually, the Gabs was on in Brisbane this weekend.
Was it?
You might
It
have to
was.
explain what that is.
It was a craft beer and food festival. Apparently huge. And I was up there. I was actually up there for the Broncos game. But we had a drink at the Squire, Charming Squire, and it was absolutely rammed in there.
At South Bank there.
South Bank.
Oh,
Packed.
that's not a bad
spot.
joint for a food.
Stone and Wood would have been there. Should have gone upstairs. Didn't do it.
That's actually a 150 Lashes joint, isn't it? Or James Squires.
Yeah, James Squire, yeah.
Very good. Very good. Well, we want to get into it.
Talk about the Titans, or we let that go?
Just let that go straight through to the keeper. I don't even know what to say.
Disappointing again.
Up 14-0.
First 15, 20 minutes was spot on. The next 65, not so good.
And then someone told them they were up 14-0 and they all just put the cue in the rack.
They put the cue in the rack and Tigers just decided to play.
There's not even notes in my book about them this week. I didn't.
Yeah, we won't talk about the Titans.
The only good thing there is the comp's wide open. We saw Newcastle win on the weekend. Cowboys have lost again. Broncos have won. From like 4th through to 16th, there's 2 games separating everyone.
Yeah, it's definitely wide open, the bottom half. I still think Roosters are head and shoulders above everyone else at this
I was
stage.
qualified for the 8 by about round 10, I reckon.
Obviously, Melbourne they're not going that great at the moment, but they're thereabouts. Cronulla are wounded at the moment with injuries. Johnson's now out for a period of time.
Yeah, they're struggling.
Rabbitohs obviously going along okay, but for me, it's the Roosters and a gap to second at the moment.
So you mentioned the Rabbitohs. There's been a bit of scuttlebutt around the water cooler
Yeah,
that James Roberts is off to the Rabbitohs now. Bennett squashed that the other week. You got a bit of mail today. or what?
no, I don't have any mail, but obviously,
It's not how he talked about it before the show. He said, "Look, got some mail."
well, obviously GI's gone, so they've got to replace him. Roberts and Bennett have also got some history. There's reports come out today that perhaps Roberts is going to play his last game for the Broncos this week against the Rabbitohs.
There's also talk of Nicarima, like transfer straight to the Warriors because they got no halves.
Yeah. Well, and I think the other one that Rabbitohs have potentially looked at or spoken about is Latrell Mitchell, but
That won't happen.
don't know whether the
Uncle Nick's not letting that happen. So what about these transfers mid-year? Like you play a game one week and then the next on Monday you turn up for training in a different singlet.
Well, yeah, I've never been a fan of the way the NRL does it. I mean, playing a team sport where you're playing with a guy that's already committed to go to another team the following year, for me, that doesn't sit well.
Well, Timmy and I work together. How would you feel, Tim, if I said, look, I'm going to the opposition next year, but for the rest of this year, you and me are still
It's a strange
teammates.
thing. It's definitely a strange thing.
Well, I mean, if that was the case, if you gave notice that you were going to opposition, you'd be walked immediately.
Yeah, yeah.
You'd be wearing the different shirt the next day. So, that's chalk and cheese.
So
there.
I would rather, if there's talk or if, Warriors need a halfback and they're going to sign Nicarima, I'd rather it was next week and he ended up there. Same with Roberts. If you're going, you're going. Make way.
Well, I mean, you see it over in the States. You see it the NBA or the baseball.
Well, Bogut's killing it over there. He just signed on basically right before the end of the season. They're frothing on him. I watched a bit of Warriors basketball over the weekend, and they're loving the fact that Bogut's back, but he didn't play the whole season.
No. I mean, you see it all the time, and particularly the baseball. They'll suit up for one team, be on a plane that night, and 2 days later playing for the other team.
Yeah.
So for me, I've never been a fan
I
of
don't
what the
mind it.
NRL does.
I don't mind it.
I mean, the AFL has the trade window at the end of the season, so at least the season's done and dusted.
I think it's got to be done by June 30. Is the thing in the NRL.
Yeah, that's right. So it's always mid-season,
I don't mind that for literally a mid-season transfer,
but not.
but I don't want to see someone sign on that's going to play here for another 18 months and then end up. That's bullshit.
That's right.
Send
And
it.
to be fair, do you, as a teammate, do you want them in your team
No,
when they've already committed and they're probably looking ahead rather than?
don't want them knowing the playbook. I don't want them knowing anything.
Yeah.
Don't want to know the supplements I'm taking, the extra injections I'm having, nothing.
You'd need plenty of injections to get you up.
Mate, this is 100% natural, naturally aspirated, would you believe? It's hard to believe sometimes.
What about Queensland State of Origin? We're in a bit of trouble. DCE went down.
Do you know what? Backs to the wall. This is when we
love it.
This is when we shine.
That's right. This is what we love.
I did put the ruler over a few of our options over the weekend. I was really impressed with Jake Friend the other night for the Roosters. Gone, bicep torn. So that was, I thought, I think he basically played his way straight into that jumper.
Ahead of McCulloch.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think McCulloch did anything wrong, but I think the hooker position is so critical now to get you on the front foot that they can't go in.
Well, especially we've had Smith there for 10 or 11 years.
Friend's got
12
that
years.
40-20 kick too.
Yeah, it's a good kick.
It's not bad.
So he's out, done.
And then I'd say, well, what about DCE? Injured, in doubt. Hunt and Norman are firming.
Yeah. I mean, they're going pretty good as a combination.
I know Norman hasn't really been, well, he's starting to now, but in the past hasn't really been looked at. But he's playing not bad footy, and if you put him into the 5'8", it allows Munster to slip out to the centres. And I know everyone says, he's a lock walk up start for the 5'8" position, but we're light on in the centres. You got Will Chambers, and then
Maybe you need to ring Kevy.
or a full refresh, and then, I don't know. Morgan, everyone's writing off Morgan, but I heard a little stat on the weekend. He's second in assists.
Yeah, he'll be there.
So I think he's just playing in a team that's struggling a little bit. Jimmy, you all good? It's all right.
Just noticed that kicked over.
Oh, when I tripped over
Yeah,
before.
yeah, it's all good.
Technology is not my friend today.
That is off the camera, but
Sorry, that's all right. Makes us look like we're actually doing this properly when shit like that's on the camera. Not just recording it on our phone like some would believe.
Yeah, I think Morgan's got to be there.
I think because we're light on, I think Morgan plays. Forward pack. Is Napa back? How long is Napa out for? Big puppy.
Big Papa.
Big pup. Is it puppy or papa?
Big Papa.
I have to ask him when he's on.
Yeah, I don't know what he must be close to back.
Still sitting in the sand.
Still recording some videos, I think.
Bull. Moving on. What else we got? Booing. While we're talking about Origin, I don't know what's going on in the AFL, but they're getting a real bit precious when they start telling fans they can't boo the opposition. What is the point of having home ground? Can you imagine trying to tell the cockroaches in the 80s that they can't boo Wally Lewis?
Yeah, it's going a bit far, isn't it? Obviously racism and all these other things that happen at the football.
I'm not
There's
talking
not
about
a
that.
place for.
I'm not talking about that.
But booing is the old-fashioned. You go to the footy and you boo the opposition.
You might as well watch it.
It's always been done.
What's the battle? Is getting fans to the game. If I can't boo, I might as well sit at home. Otherwise, the opposition doesn't know I'm there. If you're not adding to the atmosphere, go home.
I agree. 100% I agree. Look,
You don't need to swear. You don't need to discriminate. You don't need to be racist. You don't need to be sexist.
I guess the issue was this was after the game when Scott Pendlebury was going up to collect the award for Man of the Match or the Anzac Medal. Is that crossing the line between booing during the game?
Have you ever seen a Prime Minister stand up at a footy ground or present an award at a footy ground? They get booed.
Yeah,
Billy Slater did where was that? Oh, he might have got that at Suncorp. Billy Slater had got Player of the Series in New South Wales. What do you reckon would have happened last year?
he wouldn't have got out.
They would have set the joint on fire.
Yeah, no, it was quite funny because it was the Collingwood
Like toughen up. Seriously.
Collingwood faithful were the ones that came out whinging and complaining about it when they're the number one-eyed parochial crowd you'll ever meet.
Got to be careful, the bosses of Collingwood. You can unload, but I got to be careful. And I don't know. The sports fan in me says that booing is legit.
Yeah,
My 7-year-old daughter, she loves giving it to the other team,
absolutely. That's what it's all about.
just like a dad. I like it. Let it play.
But while we're on the AFL, Geelong, I don't know if you saw much of that game, but Geelong absolutely belted West Coast, reigning premiers.
No, I missed
Admittedly,
it.
it was at Geelong, but they just keep looking good.
Gablet, is he back?
Ablett played well. He spent most of the game up forward, but he played well. Brisbane beat Gold Coast in the
Q Cup?
massive Q clash.
Q Clash.
Yeah.
Were you there?
I wasn't there. I watched it until about half time when the Suns were down by 4 or 5 points at half time, and it was all downhill from there.
So what a time to be alive. Great time to be a
It actually
Gold
wasn't a
Coast
great
footy
day.
fan.
Suns got rolled and straight into the Titans, and they got rolled. So
Yeah, I switched the telly off after the Titans.
it wasn't a great Saturday.
Luckily, Timmy went to the Broncos game because I didn't see it.
But I think the AFL highlight was definitely the Collingwood Essendon game. That was a ripper on Anzac Day. 4 or 5
Yeah.
points.
And they do it well. Everyone knows I'm a league fan, but MCG, chock-a-block,
There's,
Anzac Day.
I think that's probably the second best day of the AFL calendar outside grand final day.
Yeah, it looked pretty good. I don't care. There's no arguing with it. It looks great on telly. I'm sure the atmosphere was absolutely unbelievable.
A lot
Unfortunately,
of booing.
unfortunately for the league, they're at the SCG this year, which great, lot of history. And that's the funny thing with league and AFL. AFL are still in their like spiritual home at the MCG. The spiritual home of rugby league is probably the SCG, but it's not a great place to watch footy from.
No.
I think that'll change with these new stadiums, but there's a lot of history there. But you could see there's still some empty seats on Thursday.
The SCG is just not a rugby league ground, is it? I mean, I went to State of Origin last year at the MCG, and there's no better stadium.
Yeah.
But to go there and watch rugby league wasn't that great. It wasn't a great. You're a long way from the ground. They're just not. I mean, the fields are just too big for NRL.
What's the SCG going to look like at the end of this year? Did you see the NRL posts?
No.
I'm not sure. So the Swans must have played there over the weekend after the NRL.
Yeah, they played there Saturday night.
No, having a whinge, there was 2 big squares at each end, obviously, because the league posts are well into the ground compared to the AFL. There's going to be a lot of footy played there this year while the SFS gets redone. Yeah, hopefully it holds up over the course of the year.
Time will tell.
What about Billy? I did. What game did I watch?
Would have been St Kilda.
So Billy Slater commentated Thursday night, Friday night, and then must have went straight home, straight to the AFL game, and he was in the Saints box.
Yeah, St Kilda Crows game that was at Etihad.
Oh, that was Junior's Jaffa.
Juniors.
Junior, we'll give Junior a call later on. What, in all honesty, is Billy adding in that coach's box?
Well, so Billy was brought on as
Billy Slater, that is.
Billy
sorry.
Slater. He was brought into St Kilda as they basically made a position for him.
Yeah.
It was a leadership development type position. And from all reports, obviously Billy Slater in Melbourne, and I mean the AFL guys, they watch rugby league and they follow the Storm in Melbourne. He was obviously a big deal when he came to the club, and from all reports, the players hang off every word he says.
Yeah, okay.
Apparently, he's been unbelievable around the club.
So preparation, mindset.
Preparation, game day sort of, preparation, tactical sort of stuff. I think it's just sort of a mentor type role.
So a Queensland rugby league player in the heart of Melbourne. Tell him how to get it done.
I've always been not an advocate, but I've always said rugby league, and this is the other side of the coin, but rugby league has a place for an AFL guy to come in and actually teach them about kicking. Because there's no doubt the AFL guys.
Mate, I watch some of those blokes kick in the AFL and they get a point for missing. And they can't even get that, some of them. I dead set, if that's what you're doing for a living and you've got a set shot and you spray it to the right, give yourself an uppercut.
You still get a point.
No.
You can miss.
Mate, I watched some shockers on the weekend. That was at that point, I think it was the Brisbane Suns game. I'm trying real hard for you, for your sake. Give me some of this. Snooze. That game put me to sleep. I ended up on a documentary, David Pocock documentary on Saturday afternoon. That was good, actually. It's quite riveting.
But what I'm saying is, I think rugby league have got a place to bring an AFL, maybe a retired player in.
Yeah.
Because you watch when they kick for touch after a penalty, and they kick it 30 metres or 40 metres into the grandstand.
Do you know where that comes from?
Why wouldn't they kick it 20 metres further down the field and gain an extra 20?
I saw that comment on the weekend. It comes from missing. So that margin of error, if you don't kick it out,
yeah, I know, but
it's pretty bad.
But is there some sort of risk reward there?
They're gun shy. Can you imagine not kicking it out and then getting to training on Monday and having to face Craig Bellamy?
Well,
pass.
Yeah, but that's my argument. If these guys are trained on how to kick the ball better by an AFL guy,
like I've said, I've seen some of those AFL blokes kick.
Well,
I'm joking. Yeah, I get it.
I just don't think they need to kick it 40 metres into the grandstand.
I would like to see some of them pushing it a bit further. Yes. Yeah.
Did you see much of the surfing on the weekend?
I did.
Bells?
Monster swell.
Oh, huge.
50-year swell. It was like Bodie was out there. Point Break. All those memories started coming back. Timmy, you know what I'm talking about.
Point Break,
It was like Patrick Swayze was
classic.
paddling out for his last
wave.
It was solid. He's got no idea
He
what
ain't
we're
coming
talking
back.
He ain't coming back.
Is this your science update? Or
No, Point Break.
Yeah, I've seen it.
Well, it's at Bell's. That last scene's at Bell's.
Yeah.
You didn't know that. He's bullshit.
He
He's got
didn't.
no idea.
It's based on a true
I didn't know
story.
it was at Bells. Is it?
No.
Oh, dear.
Kelly had a good event.
Went deep. Wasn't happy with his surfboards.
No.
He looked like me out there. He was a bit of a poo shooter there for a bit. I saw him, he was wobbling around on his board. Then he came in and got another one.
He chopped and changed nearly every heat. So
I don't know if he's going to make it in this surfing gig, Kelly Slater. Do you reckon he's got a future?
I don't think he'll get to 12 anyway, put it that way.
Time will tell. John getting the cash down there.
Yeah, John.
No, it was solid. I tried to watch as much of that on the weekend as possible. Yes, please, Timmy.
Need the opener. Thank you.
Sorry, folks. Bear with us while we just get ourselves sorted. I watched a lot of NBA on the weekend.
Then starting to heat up in finals.
Yeah. What about WTF NFL draft? Those buggers are mad. Absolutely mad. Did you see the scenes out of is it New Orleans or Louisiana? I can't remember where it was. In the US. You didn't see it?
No.
Streets, just millions of them sitting there watching the draft.
Really?
The players weren't even there. There's a young bloke got drafted and he was in Hawaii in a friggin' pineapple shirt.
It's all right. He probably just got signed for a couple of mil.
Oh,
And
just
the rest.
dream, tick. Made for life, tick.
Yeah.
There's another dude that on there sneezed and then blessed himself and then thanked himself. He was like, achoo, bless you, thank you. It was gold. No, I just think it's crazy. I watched that concussion movie, which I should have watched probably 3 years ago, but I really didn't want to. To be honest, a part of me says I don't want to know what's going on there because I love contact sport so bad. But when you watch it, we got some dramas ahead of us. I think there's a lot of people out there with that CTE. But I would say people at the NFL were scared, or they certainly were scared. They tried to snuff it out. They were worried it was going to kill their sport. The scenes I saw.
I heard about that. It was a massive percentage, wasn't it? What was it? Do you remember?
Oh, I don't know the percentage. Look, I'm not. You know me. I'm more about ideas instead of facts and figures. But it was high, and they were losing players. And I think it was the Pittsburgh Steelers where it started. There was a couple of guys that ended up dead at an early age, and they really resisted that it was real, but obviously had to at some point. Where I was getting to with that is I don't think it's affected their sport. That there was hundreds of thousands of people in that city on the weekend just to watch the names come out who was coming to their team. It was ridiculous. If you'd booked your bachelorette party on the weekend, you'd be spewing, like, not knowing what's going on there. That you just headed to the town to party.
That was packed. There was blocks and blocks and blocks. I could not get my head around that.
I tried to watch it on the TV and I was just like,
there was a massive.
This is it? No, snooze fest.
Well, the NFL draft's always been a big deal.
Yeah, it's huge.
And even the AFL now.
They were in the street though. There was like the biggest parade you've ever seen in Australia times 10, and they were sitting there watching it outside. You know, this happened on a big stage. Ridiculous.
Yeah, it's always been big. I mean, the AFL are now, in the last few years, the AFL have actually started broadcasting the draft.
You think league needs a draft?
No.
Well,
I don't think so.
should we give Junior a call, you reckon, Timmy? I'm getting sign language from Timmy. We should probably give Junior a call. We're just talking rubbish
Just
anyway.
one more news article. I noticed Shane Watson's finally retired from the IPL overnight, or in the last couple of days.
Massive
Pretty
career.
good career.
He has. He was copping it a bit there for a while, at the end of his time with the Australian team. But in that short form game, he's been pretty dominant.
I mean, even in the IPL this year, he's been very, very good.
Yeah.
Maybe could have snuck another year or two out, but
World Cup.
well, I don't think he wouldn't have got called up for the World Cup. But certainly, I mean, why wouldn't you go and play the IPL for 3 months a year?
I still don't understand why Andrew Simons didn't play more seasons over there. 6 weeks, $1 million. Yes, please.
I think he just liked the pig hunting, as Errol alluded to last week.
On the golf course. Different. Well, I suppose how much money's too much, or how much is enough. He's happy. Got a nice lifestyle.
He is happy.
That's good. We got Junior on the phone. Didn't answer.
He's coming in.
You there, Junior? You there, Junior?
Hey, boys.
Hey,
Yeah.
here he is.
Back to
How
back,
are
big
ya?
fella.
We've had a win.
We've done all right, haven't we?
You're in uncharted territory 2 in a row, Junior.
Uncharted.
I was suspicious for the first week that this was just Dylan's tips, but now that you've picked 2 in a row, I know it's not his because he's
Definitely
shocking.
not mine.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. No,
I hope you've done some research this week, Junior.
I'll tell you what, this week's pretty tough. There's lots of little matchups in AFL and NRL this week that sort of bogey teams, and I think both ladders are chopping and changing.
What do you reckon your forte is, NRL or AFL? Or neither?
Look, I reckon they. You're probably right. You're probably right. It's probably neither, but I'm just sniffing out a bit of value, Dylan.
That's what it's all about.
No, look, I think we just try and sort of find something. Now we've got a bit of a kitty together. We can sort of have a bit more of a play around. And
Yeah,
I
we're
think
up to
this week-
380, Junior.
So I'm a little bit conservative. I'd like to see us bank a little bit. And then
Don't
No?
be silly.
We're gonna let it ride.
100%.
We'll let it ride. We'll let it ride.
it's Dylan, is Dylan putting up the cash for this?
You can tell who the accountant is in the team.
Well,
I'm seeing a lot of outgoings for this show, and I'm not seeing a lot of incomings at the moment. That's
There's never going to be
that's all my
incomings.
concern.
All
Have you
outgoings.
got a sponsor yet, boys?
Not yet.
Anyone?
We're working on it. We're working on it.
Anyone?
We're just trying to. We're going to start with trying to get actually someone to listen to the show first. We figured we were going about it the wrong way. We tried getting sponsors before listeners.
Maybe we should try crowdfunding. We'll give that a go.
I'll tell you what, boys. I got a little text message from somebody last week. He's a listener to the show, and he showed me that the tip from last week tipped him over the edge for a 4-leg multi. So
Hey, little beauty.
there you go. Yeah, there you go.
Oh,
Does he want to
So,
sponsor the
I
show?
like that. That's good. That's good.
If I told you who it was, you'd say no. He's not going to sponsor the show. But yeah, look, that's great. We got listeners. How good's that?
Good
It's
stuff.
fantastic.
All right, what do you got for us this week? What do you
Boys,
got?
this week a little bit different. This week, as I said, there's not a lot of value around, so we've gone a little 2-leg multi.
This
Both
is trouble.
AFL and NRL. No trouble.
We don't want to bank. We're not banking, and we're not banking anything.
Well,
No.
I don't think $45 is going to help Coomera Soccer Club.
No, but it might help the
Might
next
as well
club.
get to 1,000.
Righto.
We'll get to 1,000.
Okay.
So we'll start in the AFL. I think pretty certain in the AFL this week, Collingwood over Port. So we'll take them at about $1.35 most places. And we'll ride that into the Roosters on Saturday night to topple the Tigers at about $1.25.
Good, James.
Roosters over the Tigers at $1.25.
Yeah.
What's that
Yeah.
multi come to?
That'll get you about $1.75, maybe boost it up. You might get $1.90.
Beautiful.
I reckon they're two good ones. As I said,
Pies into Roosters.
pies into Roosters.
Not the Titans.
Not the Titans.
Titans are paying
I-
good money against the Cowboys.
I did look at that. Yeah, which wasn't too bad.
That's
There's
probably
actually
why I
a
got
few
no
this
money in my
week.
account.
So yeah, this one I know the multis. They can be a bit scary, but I think those two are their morals this week. Yeah.
Here, mortgage the house.
What about you? You are keen on making us cheer for teams that I really don't want to follow. Hey, like Pies into the Roosters. Is there two more hated teams?
We're jumping on the Pies again.
Yeah, I know. That's twice now on the Pies, and we had the Crows. Look, the Crows.
No,
anyone
that's
from
all right.
Adelaide's shocking. So,
That's all right.
we had the Crows last week. So hopefully we get a Queensland team in the coming weeks.
I like that, Junior. I'll have a look at the odds. We'll have an update on the socials, but Pies into Roosters.
Surely we can get better money on the Roosters than $1.35 because that's a 2-horse race. The Tigers,
Only playing the Tigers.
yeah, they finished pretty. They beat the Titans on the weekend.
Well, Roosters should
Yes.
be $1.20 then.
Yeah, they should be
Yeah,
shorter. And
yeah,
after
righto.
this podcast, boys, I reckon they will come in after all those listeners.
Yeah,
got
we've got to be
jumping
careful
on
of that.
board.
We need to start
Yeah.
putting these bets on before the show so that we don't
That's
we get better
right.
value.
Yeah, that's right.
Love your work, Junior.
Thanks, Junior.
Thanks, boys.
Have a
Hashtag
good one,
Junior's
mate.
Jaffers.
See you, boys.
See you, mate.
Wait. Well, what do you got? Golf?
Golf.
The boys are playing on the weekend.
A good result in the LPGA in the women's tour in America. Minjee Lee,
Yep.
young Aussie girl, pretty much led from start to finish. So I think she ended up winning by 2 or 3 shots. Did it quite easy in the end. So that was a good result.
I couldn't find the pairs. What was that called? The Zurich?
The Zurich Classic.
Couldn't find that on the telly.
That was a 2-man event.
Yeah.
Probably the only one to come out of that was Adam Scott and Jason Day missed the cut.
Did they?
So they teamed up. They've obviously got President's Cup later this year. They teamed up in the hope of getting some practice together, but obviously pushing for selection together as a team later in the year.
I hit the ball off the tee pretty good last week, just quietly.
Did you?
Yeah, me and you should team up for one of them.
60 metres, 80 metres?
No, asked Wall. I was going all right. Just couldn't chip to save my life. I hit about a foot behind the ball and left the divot every time.
Pretty good for you.
Got a science update this week, Timmy?
Did we have some questions? Didn't some questions come in? Across the socials. There was
Someone wanted to know if you knew much about the torrid meteor stream. Does that mean much to you?
torrid.
Torrid, like
Yeah,
Taurus,
okay.
torrid.
The torrid. So that I'm aware of that. That's the meteor shower. I think it's once every 12 months. Deals we could be in a bit of trouble. And I think what they saw out there was, so it's a meteor shower that's every 12 months Earth passes through it. It's in about October, November. But
Just turn his mic down for a second.
what they seen is they're concerned with the size of some of what I suppose the objects they're seeing in it, and they're looking at the fact that obviously something could strike Earth.
Is this where they think the meteors come that wiped out the dinosaurs? Same ones?
Well,
So
there's another. I can't recall the name of it,
This meteor stream has caused damage to Earth previously.
There's a larger one that it's a part of that potentially
In the
could have.
in the 20th century, it took out a really large section of forest in Siberia, and no one found it for years after, and it's still
the comet.
decimated.
So they did find fragments of something there, but
We don't want to be alarmists
but
here.
there was no crater. That was a weird one. But Neil deGrasse Tyson actually did a talk on. There's another one, and I can't remember the name of it. It's named after a Greek god of death, and it's due to pass.
Sounds like you,
It is.
Greek god.
It's due to. It's
Isn't
actually
it
due to.
Italian?
It's due to come past Earth 2029. I think it's July. It's like Friday the 13th of July. I think it's something like that. It's a
shit.
real weird one.
Start
And it's
building
actually,
your bunker now.
It's actually going to pass between the space that the satellites orbit Earth.
So that close.
They're at like, I don't know, maybe let's say they're at like 18, 20, 25, 30,000 kilometres. This thing's going to come through at like 18,000 kilometres. So it's going to miss. They definitely know it's going to miss.
It's going to miss Earth, but it could wipe out a few GPS satellites.
Well, no, but what the concern is that there's a section that he calls the keyhole. So what it means is that there's a space that if it actually comes within that region, that Earth's gravity will affect it in a way that when it comes back around in 7 years, it's actually going to hit Earth. So they're looking at it. It's definitely coming through. That what they've predicted.
I saw this movie. Timmy. It's called
coming.
Deep Impact.
Exactly. Armageddon. They blow it up.
Oh yeah.
Armageddon. But you're right. Deep Impact was
two of
another
my
one.
favourites.
So what Neil deGrasse Tyson's argument was, why, even though we know it's going to miss, and we know it's something like 1 in I don't know how many million chance of actually going through this keyhole and coming back around, but what his argument was, this is a prime opportunity. 2029, so we've got 10 years to design the technology to give this thing a nudge. So we go, why don't we test it now, so that if we ever had to actually do this again in the future, we've actually tested. So I mean, this is something they're looking at, and they're looking at, okay, who funds this? Is it it's not obviously it's not America's.
How's this for a new segment? It's called Big Red on the Burst. Here's me calling out to politicians of the world, countries of the world, stop spending money on war, start spending money on space exploration and global defence.
Well, that's been the argument.
Stop worrying about zombies, because then it's not going to happen. But we dead set could get wiped out by meteors.
Well, me and you have spoken about this. The spin-off of things like NASA, the budget they have, and the technology, the engineering, that's got a flow-on effect for the economy. It's got a flow-on effect for technology. A lot of the technology we see now, down to we've spoken about cordless drills.
Cordless drills, yeah.
There's something that was designed by NASA. So
spacewalks.
there is a spin-off that comes from these projects. Besides looking at what's out there, it's and potentially we don't want to end up like the dinosaurs, Dilsey.
No, we don't.
The keyhole. So
Right.
just big 2029, 10 years. If
Can't wait. I can't wait.
Gives you plenty of time to start budgeting, putting the cans of soup away, toilet paper, and build a bunker. Don't want to be alarmist, but if you
Doomsday
start
prepping.
now, you'll be ready.
Doomsday prepping.
I've got another one for you. Timmy was away last week. Coincidentally, there was a little article in the news, in the Ballina News.
Ballina News.
I think it was in the Ballina News. There's a
was
bloke
in the
down
Northern
there who's
Star.
been, Northern Star, was it?
It was.
Has he been found guilty, or is it alleged at this point?
Alleged.
Alleged.
It's heavily leaning towards, but alleged to have
Alleged to have
had sex with 19 dogs.
That's nasty.
It is nasty.
But it does
definitely
raise
an
some
issue.
questions.
There's a few questions. Definitely around that. I mean, one, obviously, who does that? And to answer your question, no, that's not why I was away last week.
I didn't mean to make that implication, by the way.
But I suppose there is a few questions. I mean, the fact of 19, that's a lot of dogs. That's a lot. I mean, one's a lot, really. But I suppose it makes me think of, how did they come up with that number? I mean, it's really, like, either A, they asked him, have you been having sex with dogs? And he's like, yeah, they're having it all 19 times. So that's one option.
And he kept.
I don't think
kept
so.
a tally.
The second one is they questioned the dogs. Well, that's unlikely. They started getting, dogs coming in. And
Yeah.
the third, there's some other fucker counting.
Swear jar.
Sorry about that. And I think that's the most likely. I think what happened is that they're counting. then
Someone else was.
Yeah, and then they've gotten to 15 and they've gone, hang on,
Lost
this
count.
has gone far. This is ridiculous.
So you got to 15.
and then
before
they've gone, we've got to do something about this. And, eventually.
So he's sitting at 18 and says, if he does this one more time, I'm reporting him to the
we
cops.
have to. This is ridiculous.
That's a worry.
Yeah, it is.
So that's all
Is that
alleged.
normal
It's
in
all
It's
Ballina?
all alleged, but there's an article that actually goes on to name some of the dogs. One of them
No names. Let's keep it. No names. Let's keep it.
Is that normal practice
get
in
in
Ballina?
trouble.
Does that
It's
stuff?
not. It's not.
sound-
No.
That's what.
It's
That was the
not
next
normal.
I
question.
know
It's
that
definitely
it's
not.
New South Wales. It's over the border. But
Yeah,
that's
it's
a bit extreme.
It's Bangalow actually. He was from
Bangalow.
Yeah, so I'm not sure.
Not
He's
a lot to
definitely
do
not
down there?
He's definitely not in my circle of friends. Well, I don't think so.
I hope not. You got anything more on the notepad? Or are we done?
No, looks like
That
we've
caught you off
covered it all.
guard, didn't it? Look at you.
Yeah.
It's rattled him.
He's like that.
The science update or the dog?
Both.
That was not on the sports channels on pay TV over the weekend, was it, big guy?
He
No,
potentially heard the science update and thought, well, I've got nothing to lose.
You lost me at meteorites.
We might
Anyway.
have to just do a science only show. Skip him.
Yeah. And
No, that'd,
Do you reckon we could
sure
get
that'd
on?
go awesome.
Do you reckon we can get Brian Cox on the show?
there's a chance he's coming out
come to
in
town.
June.
Let's start working
Just
on
got
that.
tickets. That'd be amazing.
Don't want to just ride off Joe Rogan's coattails and just have all the same people, but
We could get him in.
a couple wouldn't be not wouldn't go astray. Righto. Thank you all. We would love to get some feedback on all the socials, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at Beers and Banter. Last final shout out thanks to Uncle Vic for the new shirts.
Thanks, Vic.
Thanks, Vic.
We're
Looking
working
good.
working on a little bit of merchandise. Hopefully, we'll have some for the listeners soon. I think that's it.
Pies, Roosters.
Cheers.
Giddy up.
Cheers, boys.
Thanks, Timmy.
Thank you all.